you need to, you know, they might be wrong as can be. And, but you just have to let that go. You have to let your ego go. And it might cost you some money to rectify the situation. You have to let your ego go and just say, okay, I want to recover this situation and make that the goal versus I need to prove that I'm right or my people's right. And
Exactly. 100%. 100%. And you'll be amazed how often that comes in. Well, they want to prove they're right. They want to prove, oh, did you read that note? It says this, it says that. Now you're just killing them. Now you're killing me. Yes. Now you're telling me I can't read.
oh,
Yes.
and I've seen that in academia and with students sometimes where I've watched someone in a teaching position say to a student, "Well, didn't you read that? It was in the book." You know, this poor student may just be asking for clarification, not like, "Are you smart enough to read it in the book and digest it?" You know, well, if they were, you know, and they probably are, but you know, then why are you here if they just need to go to the book and read it? Another soapbox of mine, but
Interesting.
yeah, but you know, it is. Yeah. Thank you for this. I think it's really really helpful. You know, and good strategies for people to think about.
Yes.
Because not everyone's going to be happy with every situation.
Exactly.
Uh,
Exactly.
Oh, and so empathy and caring and kindness. Since the pandemic, have you seen changes in how people are practicing this and then also their tolerance for practicing it? Or I mean, has the pandemic changed how we are being hospitality intelligent?
Um, that's a very good question. Thank you for asking. And as you're asking that question, I talk about active listening. So I'm here listening, listening. Then towards the end, I'm like, which example can I use? you know, I'm thinking, active listening. You know, again, that's a very good question because when you look at during the pandemic, a lot happened in our industry. A lot happened, but we're in an industry that is loaded with resilient people. Hospitality is very resilient. We bounce back. We're doing what we're supposed to be doing. Event is taking place face to face now more than during that period. And in fact, because of that, we have learned through resilience how to be patient with one another. So because of that, I am seeing some trend in the area of empathy and kindness that is changing.
That's good.
I cannot give a data right now, but I can see that it's changing. How?
Mhm.
Because many people are talking about it now.
That's-
So many people are aware of this now, you know. And during that period, you can see all kinds of stress level going up, and many people are trying to bring it
Yeah.
back down. And
Yeah.
now, because people are bringing it down with different presentations, workshops, and seminars, I think it's sinking. People are getting it, and I think as time goes on, that will become something that it will become a new culture in our industry. A new culture.
Mhm.
There are already some organizations that are practicing this phenomenon very well, very well. But others will pick it up and join, and it's gonna be great. So it's improving.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I do love that people are talking about it, and I feel like if I had started this podcast 5 years ago, I wouldn't have had other guests that, you know, outside of hospitality that would have talked about some of these concepts in hospitality intelligence. So it is so nice that people are saying, "Yeah, we need to have empathy. We need to be nice." You know, I
Yes.
think great gratitude. If Oprah and the Gratitude Journal, I think people were talking about gratitude. But um, yeah, it's so good to hear people talking about that and taking care of each other. Um, much more value of human life. Well, do you see any other trends that are happening in hospitality and hospitality leadership?
Well, if you talk about trends, um, I when I happened to be working in a group, and in that group we're talking about belonging, we're talking about inclusiveness, we're talking about inclusion, and guess what? I told them using the same phenomenon of hospitality. I made it clear, and it sacked immediately. I said there is no belonging without hospitality. There is no inclusion without hospitality. Because with hospitality, you have to be able to welcome everybody to the table. You have to be able to listen to everybody. You have to take that diverse knowledge, diverse input. You have to take it serious with hospitality. Well, that is the nucleus of hospitality. Ability to welcome people, regardless of who they are, regardless of their gender. Your goal is to make everybody happy if you are hospitable. I always tell people, when you go to an hotel, when you go to a restaurant, when you go to an event, those are businesses. Hotel is a business, restaurant is a business, but they are hospitality businesses because they require a high dose of hospitality intelligence. That is what places them under hospitality industry because you use hospitality skills to do those business. You still have to create budget. Budget is not hospitality. You have to do inventory. Inventory is not hospitality. Human resources has a little bit of hospitality to it. Marketing is not hospitality. But those businesses are regarded as hospitality business, hospitality industry, because you require a lot of hospitality skills to run those business. That is why there is no belonging without hospitality. There is no inclusion without hospitality. In fact, I will make it clear to you today that people are underestimating the power of hospitality. Many people in the world, they underestimate the power of hospitality. Hospitality is very powerful, which is what led me to creating that concept of hospitality intelligence. How we deal with one another, how we accept one another, how we communicate with one another, how we care, how we respect, how we show kindness and empathy. These are the key component of hospitality. So when you talk about leadership, I remember when I talk to people, I use a phrase, hospitable leader. Hospitable leader is a phrase that I will continue to develop as I go further in my quest. My gospel is hospitality intelligence, which will lead to an hospitable leader. Hospitality intelligence is not restricted to the frontline employees alone. I was a guest speaker at Colorado Hotel and Lodging Association, and I spoke about hospitality intelligence, and I was really talking to them as about hospitable leader, that how hospitable are they